Frances Anne Hopkins is well known for her depictions of daily life in Canada at a key moment in our country's history, as the canoe brigades and timber rafts gave way to the steamboat and the railroad, and as Confederation took shape in the post-Civil War period. Her art shows the enormous love she had for a country where she spent almost 12 years of her life. She never forgot the life that she lived here, and returned to Canadian themes in her art long after she returned to England. Hopkins was born in London, England in 1836, and was raised in a famous and artistic family. Her father, Captain Frederick Beechey, was a notable Arctic explorer and an amateur artist himself. In 1858, she married Edward Martin Hopkins, a Hudson's Bay Company official, moving to Canada to help raise his 3 boys from a previous marriage. From 1858 to 1870, she lived mostly in Lachine and Montreal, although returning to England for extended periods of time. During this time, she gave birth to 6 children and was left to cope with a large household, but she found time to sketch and paint, and to become involved with the Art Association of Montreal and the Montreal Sketching Club. Because of her husband's work, she was able to undertake canoe outings in the vicinity of Montreal and on the St. Lawrence and Ottawa rivers. She also made 3 longer journeys. In 1864, she accompanied her husband on a voyage along the north shore of Lake Superior. In 1866, she traveled up the Ottawa River. And in summer of 1869, she traveled by canoe from Fort William to Montreal. As her husband noted in a letter to one of his fur trade colleagues, canoe travel agrees with her. After her return to England, Mrs. Hopkins began to exhibit her art at the Royal Academy and in other London galleries. Her experiences in North America became the dominant theme of her artistic output, and she made use of the many plein air sketches she created during her time in Canada. She had exhibited on multiple occasions in Canada, the last time in the spring of 1870, when 16 watercolors, all related to her canoeing experiences and the disappearing life of voyager travel, were displayed. The 2 watercolors in this sale represent major subjects of the artist. The first, Canoes in a Fog, Lake Superior, is one of several sketches that Hopkins made during her first trip on Lake Superior in July 1864, and formed the basis for the first painting by her to be accepted for exhibition at the Royal Academy in London in 1869. The painting was acquired by the Glenbow Museum, and 5 Hopkins sketches related to the painting are known to exist, with 3 in the Glenbow, 1 in the Art Gallery of Hamilton, and the 5th being the work in this auction. Each sketch offers marvelous variations in colors, composition, the presence or absence of certain elements, as well as dimensions. This watercolor may be the first large-scale work that she prepared, most notably due to the multicolored wheel star on the stern of the canoe, which is mirrored in the painting, and because of the inscription on the verso, written during the artist's lifetime. It may have been one of the sketches shipped back to England in October 1866. The colors remain remarkably bright, and the details of the clothing are quite exquisite. A beautiful work, it records the moment when canoeing transformed from being a means of travel and the transport of goods into a leisure time pursuit. The second watercolor, Lumber Raft on the Ottawa, represents another Canadian theme which Frances Anne Hopkins chose to represent on several occasions. There are at least 6 such works. The Royal Ontario Museum acquired an undated watercolor, possibly from family descendants, in 1962, while Library and Archives Canada owns another undated watercolor of the same subject. 2 watercolors depicting the subject are still in family hands, with one dated 1868. Mrs. Hopkins would have likely encountered such timber rafts frequently during her journeys on the St. Lawrence and Ottawa rivers, although by the 1860s they are encountered less frequently than in their heyday of the 1830s and 1840s. The artist made a return visit to Canada in 1884, and this may have ignited a renewed interest in Canadian subject matter, as she exhibited a Canadian scene at the Royal Academy the same year as this work. It shows one of the large timber rafts floating downriver, possibly on Lake of Two Mountains, and is more atmospheric than many of the other works, with the fog on the river and the cooking fires surrounded by the crewmen, likely preparing to enjoy their breakfast meal. This watercolor offers a romantic and enchanting insight into a particular aspect of 19th century Canadian life. Cal Abbott is delighted to offer these 2 masterworks by Frances Anne Hopkins in her upcoming auction on May 28th at Toronto's Globe and Mail Centre.